Welcome, and thank you for standing by. Your lines are in listen-only mode until today's question and answer session. To queue up to ask a question, you may press *1 on your phone. Today's conference is being recorded. If you have any objection, you may disconnect at this time. I would now like to turn the call over to Dan Rutherford. Sir, you may begin.
Thank you, Kate. Hello, and welcome to our Financial Education webinar series for library staff. I'm Dan Rutherford with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau's Office of Financial Education. Today's webinar on understanding credit reports and scores is part of an ongoing educational series to help library staff build knowledge and become more comfortable helping patrons. This will be an interactive webinar with plenty of time for questions and answers. We will open the phone lines up when we are ready to hold discussions and take questions. When speaking, please be courteous to others and keep your questions and comments on point and brief so we can include as many people as possible. Also, provide your name and affiliation so we know who we're talking with and where you're from. We are recording this webinar, so your questions and comments will be recorded too. It generally takes a few weeks for us to review and post these recordings, so we ask that you please be patient. We will post the video in the library resources section of our website. The URL is on the screen now. You'll have to forgive me. Today I'm flying solo, so I'm going to be monitoring the screens and trying to talk at the same time. So if I lose track of myself, I ask that you please be patient, and I appreciate your understanding. So on our library page, you will see our list of upcoming webinar topics. We hold these webinars on a monthly basis, and the format should be fairly consistent with today's presentation. So if you haven't already done so, please send your contact information to financialeducation@cfpb.gov and ask to be added to our email list. If you add library webinars or something similar to the subject line, we'll make sure to include you in future updates and announcements. This is the 6th webinar in our series and our first of 2015. Back in November, we introduced you to the CFPB's work in encouraging savings at tax time and ways you can help patrons plan for the use of their refunds. We took the month of December off, and next month we're going to do a special webinar on marketing or promoting your financial education program with some librarians from across the country who are going to share their tips for boosting outreach and attendance to financial education programs. So be sure to get your questions ready or to share some tips of your own. Also, we will be making some adjustments to our webinar schedule to accommodate this and other special webinars in the future. So please check back often, or if you haven't already done so, ask to be added to our email list, and we'll be sure to remind you of upcoming webinars. Again, we want to make sure this is as interactive as possible, so we will stop and have discussions and take questions along the way. But you can also ask questions using the Q&A window on your screen. Simply click the Q&A button and type in your question. When you click Ask, the question will appear on our screens, and we will respond either on the spot or during one of the Q&A sessions. So here are today's objectives. Understanding the difference between credit reports and credit scores. What's in your credit report? How to dispute mistakes and fix errors. And what goes into your credit score. A credit report is a consumer report that looks at some of your bill paying history, public record information, and a record of your applications for credit. Your credit reports show information about how you have used credit, such as how much credit you have, how much of your available credit you are using, whether you have made your payments on time, and whether anyone has sent an overdue debt and whether anyone has sent an overdue debt you owe to a debt collector. Credit scores take a snapshot of key pieces of your credit history at a moment in time and sum it all up in a single number. Companies that make credit scores use each of their own mathematical formulas to do this, but the information used in the formula comes from your credit reports. The formulas are created by looking at how other people whose credit file looks like yours have paid their bills over time. Finally, it's important to know that you have more than one credit score. Not only will different scoring companies and lenders have their own scoring models, but they could also come up with different scores for different products. We'll discuss that more later. Another major difference is that you are entitled by law to receive free credit reports from national credit reporting companies every 12 months, but different companies generally charge for credit scores. Be aware that sometimes companies call their services free, but require opt-out credit monitoring services or other products to get that so-called free score. More recently, some credit card companies have been printing credit score information on credit card statements. But remember, you have multiple scores, so the score you see in the credit card statement may not be the same number you would receive if you applied for, say, a mortgage. Some people think credit reports and scores don't matter to them because they never want to get a loan. But many people and businesses use reports and scores to make decisions about you. A bank or credit card company will use them to decide whether to give you a loan or offer you a credit card. A credit card company may use them to decide what interest rate you will pay on your future charges if you are approved. A landlord may use your reports or scores to determine whether to rent an apartment to you. In many states, an insurance company may use your reports or scores to determine whether to give you insurance coverage and the rates you will pay for the coverage. Cell phone and utility companies base deposits and rates and may use them to screen you for deposit levels and cost of service. A potential employer may use your reports to determine whether you will get a job. According to the credit reporting agencies, actual scores may not be used by employers. A special version of the report is used by some employers. And an existing employer may use your reports to determine whether you will get a promotion. Having a positive credit history and a good credit score can open doors for you, and not having a positive credit history or a good score can create obstacles. You could end up costing you more money in terms of the price you will pay for loans, credit cards, and other services. That's why it's important to pay bills on time and pay attention to what's in your credit report. The score is calculated based on the information in your report, so consumers need to take the time to make sure they understand the information, that the information in the report is accurate. And this is something that libraries can help to do by hosting maybe a Check Your Credit Report Day or something similar. You would want to be very careful with privacy issues and concerns, however, because you are talking about people's sensitive financial information such as Social Security numbers, account numbers, and the like. And for this reason, you may want to avoid unsecured Wi-Fi connections, shared printers, or areas where information could be gleaned by others. One option is to do maybe complete paper form and have those mailed in by the patrons themselves. The simplest and easy way for most consumers to request their credit reports is by going to annualcreditreport.com. Annualcreditreport.com is the only website required by federal law to distribute free credit reports to consumers. Be careful with lookalike sites or sites that offer add-on services. You do not need to pay for a credit report. You can also order your report by mail. The form is in the handouts or by phone. You can also order your credit report by phone, and the number is also shown here on the screen. Braille and large print credit reports are also available. So I mentioned the handouts. If you look at the top of your screen, you'll see in the upper right corner 3 little sheets of paper there. If you click on those, you can download all of the handouts, and I'll be referring to some of the others along the way. So please feel free to download those. And some of these other materials you may also find on our website, consumerfinance.gov, or the brochure where you may also be able to order for free through our website or through our library resources page. Okay, so you can order reports from so when you order your reports from annualcreditreport.com, you're getting them from the 3 largest credit reporting agencies, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Regardless of whether you choose to get your reports from annualcreditreport.com or via phone or mail, you can order all 3 reports once a year or spread them out, getting 1 free report every few months. And that's a good way, a good option if you want to monitor your credit over the year. Credit reporting agencies, or the credit bureaus, collect information about consumers from many sources. They then organize this information into reports and sell the reports to businesses, so the businesses can make decisions about you. The biggest credit reporting bureaus are the nationwide credit reporting agencies Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Each of these companies is likely to have a file on you, and while most of your files may be similar, there may be differences. The credit report contains 5 sections. These sections include the header, or identifying information. This includes your name and current address, as well as other information that can be used to distinguish or trace your identity, either by itself, like your Social Security number, or when combined with other personal information, including date and place of birth. This information may not be complete, and this information may not be complete. For example, all the jobs that you have held, for example, may not be listed, but what is listed should be accurate. Also, a credit report does not include some personal information such as race or ethnicity. The next section is the public record information. This section includes public record data of the financial nature, including consumer bankruptcies, judgments, and state and federal tax liens. Records of arrests and convictions generally do not appear on your credit file, but other types of consumer reporting agencies, such as employment background screening agencies, often include them. Other public records that usually do not appear in credit reports are marriage records, adoptions, and records of civil suits that have not resulted in judgments. There is also collection agency account information. This section will show if you have had any accounts with a collection agency and the status of those accounts. Your credit account information is the next section. It may include accounts you have now, or that you have had before with collectors, or with creditors, I'm sorry. This includes the company name, the account number, date opened, last activity, the type of account and status, the date closed if the account is no longer open, the credit limit, the items as of date, any amount currently owed, and whether you are current or late on the payments, and the balance, whether you have a past due amount, and the date information was reported to the credit bureau. Some accounts may not be listed, especially older accounts or those you may have closed. So there may be inconsistencies across credit files and credit reporting agencies in the contents of this section. It is important to make sure what is listed, however, does or did belong to you. Finally, there are the inquiries made to your account. Companies look at your credit report when you apply for credit, when they review your account, or when they offer you a special promotional rate. When you apply for credit and a lender reviews your credit report, it is listed as an inquiry on your report. Promotional inquiries, periodic reviews of your credit history by one of your creditors, and your reports for a copy of and requests, for a copy of your report aren't listed as an inquiry. So those that come from other companies, that when you request credit, those show up. When you make your own request for that free annual credit report, that doesn't count. So you can make as a lot of people get confused over that issue. So that the free credit reports that you're due once a year, those you can request every 12 months. Negative information. In general, negative information can be reported to those who request your credit report for only a specified period of time, 7 years for most items. A bankruptcy can stay on your credit report for 10 years, and certain other court records can be reported on your credit report for longer than 7 years. for civil suits and judgments, as well as arrest records. The information can be reported on your credit report for 7 years or for the duration allowed by the statute of limitations, whichever is longer. For criminal convictions, there's no time limit. There is no limit to the length of time that positive information can stay on your credit report. Even though the information is not to be reported beyond the limits provided in the Fair Credit Reporting Act, the credit reporting agencies may continue to keep the information in your file. There is no time limit in terms of reporting information, positive or negative, when you are applying for credit of $150,000 or more, applying for life insurance with a face value of $150,000 or more, or applying for a job with an annual salary of $75,000 or more. Companies collect this information and sell it to other businesses, which use it to make decisions about you. Businesses that use this information believe that how you have handled credit in the past is a good predictor of how you will handle credit in the future. If you have struggled with managing your credit in the past, especially the recent past, they believe you are likely to struggle again. And this is why it's very important to make sure your credit reports are error-free. If you find something wrong with your credit report, you should dispute it. Again, if we're talking about financial education programming ideas, this could be a follow-up to a credit check program. Once patrons receive their reports, Part 2 could be going over it with a professional credit counselor to ensure there are no serious mistakes, and then helping patrons with submitting disputes if there are. Here's how you can do that. You may contact both the credit reporting agency, TransUnion, Equifax, or Experian, as well as the company that provided the incorrect information. This is known as the information furnisher, or the creditor. You will need to explain what you think is wrong and why. If you have evidence, a receipt for payment, a copy of a canceled check, or etc., you can include a copy of this and a copy of your credit report with the incorrect information highlighted. Never send original documents. Only send copies. You may want to send this information with a letter using certified mail, return receipt requested. This will give you a notification when the credit reporting agency and information furnisher receive the dispute letter. Be sure to keep copies of everything you send to the credit reporting agencies, including the dates you send the items. The credit reporting agency generally has 30 to 45 days to respond to your request from the time it receives it, and you will know this because of the return receipt you have. If an information furnisher has to change information it reported, it must notify the credit reporting agencies that received the faulty information, and vice versa. If you filed a dispute with a credit reporting agency, the agency must first fix the file and notify the creditor of the error. Here's an example of a dispute letter from the Federal Trade Commission to a credit reporting agency as a guide for writing your own letter. This sample letter is also available in the handouts. And over the next few slides, we will provide the contact information for Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. The information for Equifax, I'll leave it on the screen for a few minutes. Again, all of this information is available on our website at consumerfinance.gov. You can use the Ask the FPB tool and search for credit reports, and you'll pull up a lot of this information there. Experian? Finally, TransUnion. If a dispute isn't settled to your satisfaction, you can also submit a complaint to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. To do so, you can visit our website at consumerfinance.gov/complaint/ Select the icon labeled Credit Reporting and complete and submit the form online. Besides checking for mistakes, another good reason to review your credit report regularly is to look for signs of identity theft. If you think you have been a victim of identity theft, contact one of the national credit reporting agencies and place a fraud alert in your credit report. The numbers are there on your screen. When you place a fraud alert on your credit report at one of the nationwide credit reporting agencies, it must notify the others. Fraud alert requires creditors who check your credit report to take steps to verify your identity before opening a new account, issuing a credit card, or increasing the credit limit of an existing account based on a consumer's request. There are two main types of fraud alerts: initial fraud alerts and extended alerts. Initial fraud alerts can be placed on your credit report if you believe you are or are about to become a victim of identity theft. Credit reporting companies will keep this alert on your file for 90 days. An initial fraud alert requires that the creditor takes reasonable steps to make sure the person making a new credit request in your name is actually you. You can place an extended alert on your credit report after your identity has been stolen. When you place an extended fraud alert in your file, you're entitled to 2 free copies of your credit report from each of the nationwide credit reporting companies over a 12-month period. You must file either a police report or a report with a government agency, such as the Federal Trade Commission. An extended alert is good for 7 years. An extended alert requires that the creditor contact you in person or through the telephone number or other contact method you designate to verify whether you are the person making the credit request. You can also place a freeze on your credit report. A security freeze means that new creditors can't access your credit report. Because most businesses will not open credit accounts without checking your credit report, a freeze can stop identity thieves from opening new accounts in your name. Be mindful that a freeze doesn't prevent identity thieves from taking over existing accounts. Each state has its own rules about credit freezes and how much you pay for them. Credit scores are a little different from credit reports, and again, I just want to reemphasize the difference between the two. So credit scores are a snapshot in time. They're a summary of your credit history or what's in your credit reports in a single number. The information that comes from your credit reports make up your credit score. So a lot of times when we offer advice in this area, we reinforce or emphasize making sure that the information in your reports are error-free, and that could help raise your score in some cases. So again, credit scores are a summary, or they summarize key pieces in your credit history. It's sort of like a photograph, sort of like a snapshot. Companies that make credit scores use their own complicated mathematical formulas to do this. The information used in this formula comes from your credit reports, as I mentioned earlier, and the formulas are created by looking at how other people whose credit looks like yours have paid their bills over time. Credit scores make it easier for businesses to make decisions about whether to do business with you. This is because scores provide a standardized way for businesses to understand the risk that you may not repay your loan. Without it, they would have to take the time to read and interpret your credit report. It is important to note that you have more than one credit score. Each agency generates a score, and they may differ from each other, sometimes significantly. In addition, an agency generates different scores for different kinds of users, and the score it sells to you may be another different score called an educational score. So you can have one score or one method of scoring for credit cards, one method for mortgages, And then you'll have this third type called the educational score, which is typically what you'll see when you're sold a score or when you go to purchase your score from a vendor. With credit scoring formulas, the higher the number, the less risky lenders believe you are likely to be. In fact, most credit scoring formulas say that you are unlikely to default on a loan if your credit scores are high. FICO scores, that's F-I-C-O, are calculated using a formula made by the Fair Isaac Corporation. They're the most commonly used scores. These scores range from 300 to 850, and people with the very best scores, credit scores in the FICO range of 750 and higher, they're generally considered the highest or have the best, considered to have the best scores and rates. So what goes into your score? So several things go into your credit score, and this sort of rounds up most of the major components. Payment history tracks whether you are paying your bills on time and as agreed. This is the biggest factor in your FICO scores. Paying bills late, not paying bills at all, and having bills go to collections will cause your scores to drop. The older the information is, the less impact it will have on your scores. This is the reason it is more important to stay current with active accounts than it is to pay off old debts. Debts that have gone to collections have already damaged your scores. Amounts owed includes whether you are paying down your loan balances as agreed. It also includes your credit utilization rate. Your credit utilization rate is how much of your available credit you are using. If you use more than 30% of your credit limits, your scores may drop. Length of credit history is the next factor that impacts your scores. Your score increases the longer you have a credit history. New credit tracks your inquiries. If you have too many inquiries, the model interprets this to mean you have a high demand for credit, which may be an indicator of risk, and your scores may drop. When you are shopping for a home, car, student loan, however, most models give you a short window of time when multiple inquiries can be made for some types of credit without causing your score to drop. Finally, types of credit used are also considered. Your FICO scores increase if you have both credit cards or revolving credit and loans, installment credit, such as a mortgage or car loan. Generally, it is considered a positive to have a mortgage and auto loan and not too many credit cards. So how do you get and keep a good credit score? I'll go through some of that in just a second, but here on this slide you'll see, again, a brochure, informational sheet that we have available for download in the handouts. This is also available on our website, and you can order these for your libraries. And also a link to Ask CFPB. We have a number of questions and answers about credit scores and credit records, so you can find more information there, especially this information on how to keep a good credit score, which includes paying your bills on time every time. One way to make sure your payments are on time is to set up automatic payments or set up electronic reminders. If you've missed payments, get current and stay current. Don't get close to your credit limit. Credit scoring models look at how close you are to being maxed out, so try to keep your balances low in proportion to your overall credit limit. Experts advise keeping your use of credit at no more than 30% of your total credit limit. You don't need to revolve on credit cards to get a good score. Paying off the balance each month can also help you get the best scores. A long credit history will help your score. Credit scores are based on experience over time. The more experience you have with getting credit and paying your bills on time, the more information there is to determine whether you are a good credit risk. Only apply for credit that you need. Credit scores look at recent credit activity as an indicator of your need for credit. If you apply for a lot of credit over a short period of time, it may appear to lenders that your economic circumstances have changed negatively. And again, this information is available on the brochure and in SCFPB, so for more information, please look for Understand Your Credit Score in the handouts or visit our website at consumerfinance.gov. For more resources available to you and to your library, I also invite you to visit our library resources page, and that you'll find at consumerfinance.gov/library-resources. And with that, Kate, I think we'll go ahead and open up the phone lines and see if there are any questions.
If you would like to ask a question at this time, please unmute your phone and press star 1. You will be prompted to record your name, which is used to introduce your question. Again, if you would like to ask a question, you may do so by pressing star 1 at this time. One moment while we see if there are any questions. There are no questions on the line at this time.
All right. Well, we'll keep the opportunity open for a little while longer. I know this is a pretty big topic, and you had to sit through my voice for the entire show, so I apologize for that. Again, my colleague is out sick today, so otherwise we would have hopefully have had a little bit more variety there. But I appreciate everyone's time. If there are no other questions, we'll sign off for now and see you all next month. Thank you for attending. And again, resources are available at consumerfinance.gov/library-resources.
Thank you. This concludes today's conference. Thank you for your attendance. You may disconnect at this time.